Have you ever found yourself wondering why it always feels so hard? Why the same seriousness that built your career, your home, your reputation for being the one who always figures it out, seems to quietly sabotage you when it comes to love? You sit across from a man at dinner and feel the weight of expectation pressing down between the two of you like a pane of glass. You try to break through it with questions, polite laughter, nodding at the right moments, but somehow the spark slips through your fingers every time, and you go home, pour yourself a glass of wine, open your laptop just to check one last email. Because work never lets you down the way people sometimes do. Rachel knows this feeling too well. She's 35, living in Chicago, making more money than her parents ever dreamed of, wearing tailored jackets that make her feel like she's wrapped in armor. She likes it that way. The armor keeps her safe. She's so used to being the responsible one, the woman people trust with secrets, crises, big decisions, that she doesn't notice how the same trait has carved a quiet distance between her and the warmth she secretly longs for. It's easy to say she's too picky, that she's intimidating, that men just can't handle a woman like her. She tells herself that sometimes. It sounds better than the truth that whispers when the condo's quiet at Nico. Maybe she's showing up in love the same way she shows up at work. Efficient, thorough, unshakable. And maybe that's the problem. She remembers her last first date like 100 others before it. A nice man named Marcus. Good job, kind smile. They sat at a little Italian place she'd chosen for its quiet corners. She asked him where he saw himself in 5 years, what his biggest goals were, whether he'd ever cheated on anyone. And when he hesitated to answer, she made a mental note and folded her napkin a little tighter in her lap. She thought she was being smart, protecting herself, making sure she didn't waste time. But halfway through the tiramisu, she felt the conversation drying up like a stream in the desert. He kissed her cheek at the end of the night, said he'd text. He didn't. She wasn't surprised. She went home and told herself she'd rather be alone than waste her time on someone who couldn't pass her unspoken test. What she didn't see was that she never really gave him a chance to be anything but a line on her checklist. Rachel isn't cold. She's not unfeeling. She's just tired. Tired of hoping too much. Tired of being disappointed by men who promised warmth and gave excuses. Tired of wanting something so badly it makes her chest itch. So she shows up prepared. She turns softness into strategy. She thinks if she asks the right questions, checks the right boxes, she'll finally find someone who can't hurt her. But love doesn't grow that way. Love can't be managed or scheduled into an already packed calendar. It slips in through the cracks when you laugh at the wrong joke, when you lean a little closer than you meant to, when you let yourself say something silly instead of something safe. It's not that Rachel needs to be less smart or less ambitious. It's that she's forgotten the part of her that's still soft. The part that giggles when she gets the hiccups from drinking wine too fast. The part that used to doodle hearts in her notebook when she was 12. The part that still wants to be held, even though she swears she doesn't need to be. Maya used to be like Rachel too. Maya's 42 now, a single mom, an architect who rebuilt her life after a divorce that nearly broke her. For years she sat across tables just like Rachel, asking the same serious questions, wearing the same polite smile that hid her longing. Then one night, sitting alone in her car after another stiff, pleasant, pointless date, she asked herself if maybe, just maybe, all her seriousness had turned into a shield so heavy no one could get past it. She didn't become someone else overnight. She didn't start giggling at everything or pretending she was someone she wasn't. She just let herself try something different. She told a silly story about her kid's science project. She asked a man what made him feel alive instead of what made him worthy. She stopped worrying about whether she looked foolish for hoping, and she let herself hope anyway. When she met David, she didn't ask for his 5-year plan on the first night. She asked him what song made him want to roll the windows down and sing at the top of his lungs. He told her. Then he asked her. They laughed so hard the waiter asked them to keep it down. It wasn't strategy, it was just real. And real was enough. No one's asking you to be someone you're not. No one wants you to trade your strength for helplessness, or your standards for scraps. But if you're honest with yourself, you know that armor gets heavy after a while. And maybe, just maybe, you don't have to carry it every time you sit across from someone who might. If you let him see the real you. So next time you find yourself about to ask him where he sees himself in 5 years, maybe ask him what made him laugh so hard he cried last. Next time you feel the tight knot of seriousness in your chest, loosen it just a little. Let him see that part of you that wants more than answers, the part that wants connection. You're not too much. You've just been too guarded. The good news is you can put the armor down when you want to. You can be the woman who holds her own life together and still lets herself be held. It doesn't make you weaker. It makes you whole. And maybe, just maybe, it opens the door for love to walk in. Not because you planned it, but because you finally left the door unlocked. Somewhere deep down, maybe you already know this. You've felt it when you've been around certain men. The ones who didn't care about your titles or your carefully rehearsed answers. The ones who somehow made you forget, just for a moment, that you were supposed to be on. The ones who reached right past your perfect posture and touched something softer. That hidden, stubborn place in you that still believes in slow kisses and long mornings and the quiet thrill of being really, truly known. But it never seems to last, does it? You get a glimpse of that feeling, maybe for a few dates, a few weeks. And then reality slips back in. Work calls, deadlines pile up. You slip back into the habits that keep you in control. You can't help it. Control is where you feel safest. Control means no one can knock you off balance. So you tuck that softness away again, telling yourself it was silly to let it out in the first place. If you've done this, you're not alone. A lot of women do. Women like you, who built their own stability from the ground up. Women who learned the hard way that if you don't hold the wheel steady, no one else will. And yet, when it comes to love, the very thing that works everywhere else in your life quietly betrays you. Because what you crave, what you really crave, can't be commanded or organized or managed. Emily would tell you this if she could. She's 40 now, divorced for 3 years, a senior executive at a marketing firm in Denver. If you saw her at work, you'd think she had it all figured out. She walks into meetings with a calm confidence that makes the room pay attention. She hits her deadlines, runs her teams like a general, lands clients other people couldn't even get in the door, and she loves it. The sense of mastery, the respect, the paycheck that lets her live the life she always dreamed about when she was 22, eating ramen noodles in a tiny studio apartment. But at night, when her laptop is finally closed, when she brushes her teeth and looks at her reflection, the tired eyes, the tiny lines at the corners of her mouth, she wonders if maybe, just maybe, there's another way to live. A way where she doesn't always have to be so composed. A way where someone else cares about the small things. Whether she made it home safe, whether she's had a terrible day, whether she's quietly craving Chinese takeout on the couch at midnight. The last man she dated told her she was amazing, smart, captivating, impressive. But he also said, in a moment of fragile honesty, that sometimes it felt like sitting across from her was like sitting across from a wall made of glass. He could see her, but he couldn't feel her. She was there, but she wasn't really with him. It stung when he said that. It made her want to snap back, to tell him he was intimidated. that he just couldn't handle a strong woman. But later, alone in her car, she realized there was a truth buried in his clumsy words. She knew how to show up with her best face forward, but she didn't know how to invite someone in past the face. She didn't know how to let someone see the version of her that wasn't holding it together. And if she was honest, she didn't really know what that version looked like anymore. When you've spent years mastering control, softness feels dangerous. It feels reckless to let someone close enough to see the parts of you don't manage perfectly. The petty parts, the scared parts, the silly parts, the hungry parts. But here's the secret Emily discovered. The thing no one told her. The thing no one tells women like Yug. What makes a man stay isn't the flawless version of you. It's the real version. It's the part of you that shows him something he can't find on his own. A feeling, a warmth, a spark that makes him want to protect it, cherish it, come home to it. Not because you need him to survive, but because when he's with you, he feels more alive. It's not about pretending to be someone you're not. It's not about giggling at every joke or playing dumb so a man feels bigger. It's about letting him see you breathe. Letting him feel you, not just listen to your resume. It's about giving him a moment where you aren't in charge of the outcome, where you're both just there, in that fragile, electric space where something real can grow. When Emily met Jack, she almost blew it. They'd been set up by a mutual friend. She went in armed with all the usual questions, ready to vet him like an HR rep screening a new hire. He laughed at first, answered politely. But then he did something that surprised her. He stopped her mid-question. He smiled and said, "Do you ever stop interviewing people? What happens if you just let it be fun?" She felt embarrassed at first, defensive, but something in the way he asked it. Gentle, teasing, a little amused but not cruel, made her pause. She put her questions down. She asked him what his perfect Saturday looked like instead. He told her about his old dog, how they'd spend the morning at the park, then grab coffee and sit on a bench watching the world drift by. He asked her what hers looked like. She realized she didn't even know anymore. So she made one up right there, piecing together bits of the girl she used to be before everything got so heavy. They laughed. They ordered another round. They forgot the time. She left the date without a checklist, without a plan, but with something she hadn't felt in years. A soft flutter in her chest that reminded her what it felt like to hope. 6 months later, she still catches herself reaching for her armor sometimes. She still wants to ask the heavy questions too soon. But every time she does, she remembers how Jack looked at her that night. Not like a perfect woman to win, but like a real one he wanted to keep discovering. Maybe that's the secret, if there is one. Maybe it's not about being less serious, but about not letting seriousness be the only note you play. Maybe it's about trusting that the strongest thing you can do is sometimes be unguarded. To let someone see you when you're not perfectly polished. To trust that if the right man is in front of you, he doesn't want your perfection. He wants your permission to feel something real with you. So if you've been telling yourself that you lose at love because you're too much, too smart, too driven, too independent, stop. The truth is, you lose at love when you forget that your strength was never meant to stand alone. It was meant to be matched, complemented, softened by connection. You don't need to be rescued. You don't need a man to fix you. But you might just need to remember that letting him see the real you doesn't make you weaker. It makes you braver. It gives him something to stand beside, not something to fight through. Some nights, when Emily feels that old habit creeping in, she thinks about the way Jack pulls her feet into his lap when they're on the couch. He never says it out loud, but she knows what it means. He likes that she's powerful out there in the world, but here, with him, she gets to be soft. She gets to rest. She gets to stop performing. You deserve that too. You deserve to know what it feels like to set the armor down for a while. To trust that the right man won't run when he sees the parts of you that aren't bulletproof. He'll stay because of them. Because they make you whole. Because they make him feel needed in a way that isn't about your survival, but about your shared tenderness. Maybe next time, when you're sitting across from someone new, you'll feel that urge to test him, to measure him against the unspoken list in your mind. Maybe you'll feel the armor slide into place, the same old reflex. And maybe this time, you'll take a breath instead. You'll ask a question that doesn't have a right answer. You'll let there be silence. You'll say something that makes no sense, just because it makes you laugh. You'll let him see the woman underneath, the perfectly organized life. And when you do, you might find that the right man won't pull away. He'll lean in closer. He'll set down his own guard too. And between you, in that small, warm space you created by being brave enough to be real, something might grow that no checklist in the world could ever guarantee. You can be serious, you can be soft, you can be both. And maybe, just maybe, that's where love finds you. Not because you forced it, but because you finally made space for it to breathe. So let's say you do it. You take a breath and loosen your grip on the checklist. You sit across from him, or maybe you're curled up beside him on an old couch, or you're walking through a park where the wind lifts your hair and you let it, and you do the thing once terrified you most. You stay open. At first, it might feel awkward, like you're doing something wrong, like you're forgetting your lines halfway through a speech. But slowly, if you let it, you'll notice something different happening. There's a pause in your chest that wasn't there before. A soft, uncertain little H that says, "This is real." Sophie felt that H for the first time last winter. She's 28, a lawyer in New York. Always the first one in, last one out. Jacket buttoned tight against the city wind and against anything that might distract her from the next promotion. Her friends call her the bullet train. Fast, focused, unstoppable. They say it with pride and a little envy. But Sophie knows the truth. Sometimes unstoppable is just another word for untouchable. When she met Liam at a friend's birthday party, she almost brushed him off. He was funny, a little scruffy, the kind of man she would have written off 5 years ago because he didn't have the right kind of ambition. Or so she thought. But there was something about the way he listened. Really listened. He didn't flinch at her sharp edges. He didn't try to impress her. He just asked her questions no one ever bothered to ask. What did she dream about when she was 16? What did she love before the law firm, before the late nights, before the need to be unstoppable swallowed up every other part of her? She laughed him off at first, tossed out a half-serious answer. But later that night, riding home in a cab through the city that never really sleeps, she felt that question echoing around her ribs, like a song she'd forgotten the words to. They went on a date the next week. She showed up in her usual armor. Perfect hair, perfect lipstick, perfect conversation starters tucked into her purse like spare change. But halfway through dinner, she felt herself slipping. Not because she planned it, because she couldn't help it. The way he smiled at her when she made a dumb joke. The way he told stories about his brother, and how they used to get into trouble stealing peaches from a neighbor's yard. She forgot her script. She just laughed. After dinner, they walked aimlessly through the streets. She said something silly, he said something sillier. She caught herself thinking, I hope this doesn't end, and then immediately tried to smother the thought, because hope, for Sophie, has always been a risky currency. But hope, she learned, is also the part that makes everything else worth it. A few months later, they're still figuring each other out. She still wants to reach for her armor sometimes. He lets her. But then he gently reminds her what it feels like to leave it by the door for a while. To let him in. Not because she can't stand on her own, but because she doesn't have to stand alone every single night. If you were to sit down with Sophie now, she'd tell you the same thing Maya would tell you, the same thing Emily would swear by. The scariest thing she ever did was softer than anything she'd planned. There's a quiet courage in letting someone love you for who you are when you're not trying to prove anything. And that's the part no one tells you when they talk about serious women losing at love. They say you're intimidating. They say men are weak. They say the world is unfair. And sometimes, yes, it is. But the deeper truth, the one that will free you if you let it, is that it's not the seriousness that drives love away. It's the armor you wrap that seriousness in. The barbed wire you build around your tenderness. The rules you cling to so you don't have to feel foolish for wanting what you want so badly. The right man is not looking for your flawless performance. He's looking for your humanness. The part that forgets the script. The part that snorts when you laugh too hard. The part that gets a little shy when he brushes your hair away from your face. The part that's not trying to win him, but is brave enough to be seen by him. This doesn't mean you lower your standards. It doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect or chase half-hearted maybes. It means you change the story you tell about what makes you worthy. You stop performing and start connecting. You trust that the same strength that built your life can hold space for softness too. And yes, some men will still shrink back when they see you. Some will feel small next to your ambition and your calm command of the world. But the right one won't. The right one won't care that you closed a big deal or led a team meeting or bought your own damn house. He'll admire it, but he'll love you for the parts that can't be summarized on a LinkedIn page. Maybe he's out there right now, just like you, tired of pretending, tired of shallow small talk and carefully managed expectations. Tired of women who won't let him show up for them because they're too busy showing him how little they need anyone. Maybe he's waiting for you to open the door. Not all the way, not all at once. Just a crack. Enough for him to see there's something real behind the strong front. Enough for him to feel needed. Not because you can't stand alone, but because you'd rather stand together. It won't always be tidy. Love never is. You'll second guess yourself. You'll feel that old urge to ask him if he's good enough, serious enough, loyal enough. And you should. You should care about who you let in. But ask yourself this too. Can I let him see me? Can I let him know the parts I don't show at work? The dreams I buried under all my plans? The softness that makes me feel dangerously alive?